Why don't you say? That's fine.
Everybody's signing. Well, I still got me.
I don't think we have to read today. It's on email. I think Gary was out.
Where is that? Representative Sanitary.
Okay.
He's gonna talk about the valley and the deck.
Let's get rolling in and run through this.
New grounds not
I just
here.
sent flyers.
Plus I'm planning on rolling out as soon as that part is done.
I don't blame you.
Okay, welcome everyone. We're going to start the
Like to
meeting.
do that.
Madam Clerk, roll.
Lisa Venanzia Blair Clerk. Mr. Malloy,
Here.
Mr. Bernard. Here. Mr. Hernandez.
Here. Okay, first thing I want to do is to wish Christina a happy birthday.
Happy day
To you. Birthday to you. She's blushing. Happy birthday, dear Christina. Happy birthday to you. That's a great way. Yes, a great way to start the meeting.
Are
Happy
you
birthday.
20 now? Actually, who's older than you?
I know, now that you said that, thanks, Jolie. No, I said, I just realized that, yes, I too have.
Oh, okay. Well, we're all in it together.
Okay, agenda item ones.
Sure. Okay. Yesterday's first, but it's like.
Yeah. Well, yeah, commissioners, you go with that? Fine, bro.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, thank you. Thank you, Auditor. My name is Matt Stuzinski. I serve as municipal advisor to Trumbull County. Good morning to all of you. Quick bio of myself. Been in the public finance space for about 40 years now. Started out as a finance director in various communities in Northeast Ohio around the Cleveland area. Went into investment banking from there, mostly in public finance, working with local governments on the investment banking side, underwriting municipal bonds. When Dodd-Frank was introduced back in 2008, 2009, it passed. They made the determination, much like Sarbanes-Oxley, that you couldn't be an underwriter and an advisor. You had to make a decision which of those paths. Dodd-Frank wanted to make sure that issuers like yourself had a fiduciary, a consultant who had a fiduciary responsibility to the issuer, not to the investor. So in 2015, I became a municipal advisor, broke away from the investment banking side, and I've been serving in that capacity as a municipal advisor since 2015, and I've had the good fortune to serve this county for that period of time, and I thank you for that wonderful partnership.
I got a stupid question, like who do you work for though? Who hired you?
Yeah, so myself, I work for myself.
Right? I mean, did the commissioners hire you? Did we hire you?
Commissioners hired me. We had.
Approve his contract.
Yeah.
And about February, I believe I sent it to you and then you guys approve it.
Gotcha. On an annual basis to go through. So thank you for that. I appreciate it, but I do work for myself as a part-time consultant on the finance director. Also helps me out. Keep in mind, we're all Securities Exchange Commission registered. We have obligations, we have clients. We're not a financial advisory shop or anything else other than municipal bonds. Keep in mind, everything we do in this space, municipal finance, is guided in Ohio by the Ohio Revised Code. So we're in compliance with everything we do with the Ohio Revised Code, much different than your personal finances. We comply with federal tax law, Ohio law, and local law. So we do those are the restrictions we're always operating under. Anything I do say today is always going to be, not just my opinion, but my opinion based upon the guidance of the Ohio Revised Code. What I understand was being considered here this morning, or at least one topic, was the consideration to serve as conduit issuer for the Shepherd of the Valley. 2013, Trumbull County served as conduit issuer for Shepherd of the Valley, meaning Shepherd of the Valley is a not-for-profit, but in order to issue tax-exempt bonds, they have to go through a public agency. Just think of it that way. They could use the county, they could use a local community. In order to issue, Port Authority is an example, sure. They can they have to go through a entity that is allowed to issue tax exempt bonds. They don't have the authority to do it on their own. So in 2013, the commissioners here did provide the wherewithal for the Shepherd Valley to issue conduit bonds to the county. I would say the issuance was in the high 20s, $27 million. Matter of fact, I think in your financial statements, I didn't talk for everyone. Perhaps like Trumbull was the only financial statement that referenced the issuance of the conduit debt. I don't know much. And that's all I have. I didn't know we're such a large crowd this morning. Then points out that the county did issue and has the obligation to point that out in all of their audits. I'll take a second and stop here. Commissioners have a chance to look at that. No. Pointing out that was done in 2013. And what the amount, I do have the amount, $28,550,000 remains outstanding on that bond issue. So Shepherd of the Valley is contemplating a refinancing of that debt. My understanding, I don't work for Shepherd of the Valley. I'm just hearing that by way of the attorneys who have been contacted to represent you by the attorneys who represent Shepherd of the Valley. They're looking to refinance and looking to issue new money for a project that they're building in Columbia County. And in doing so, they're looking for a conduit issuer again. And best I can assess is that they are shopping different issuers, the Columbia Port Authority, another port authority that I'm not aware of, and the county to determine whether or not you would once again serve as conduit issuer for their debt, their refinancing and their project. They need someone to move forward with their tax exempt financing. I think their shopping is based upon cost, perhaps. That's in my opinion. I don't know that to be the case, but I would imagine their shopping because port authorities charge fees to serve as conduit issuer. Typically, counties charge fees to serve as conduit issuer. Serving as conduit issuer has no liability to you. Meaning you're not pledging a county asset, county resources, county anything other than your name to the cover of the official statement or whatever offering memorandum that they would use to sell this debt. Now, the debt is likely, they already found a home for the debt. They have a lender, I would imagine, who they've already found is going to do the financing. We'll call it a bond. That financing agent likely is a bank, and they'll call it a loan. But we must call it a bond because the statute says we can only serve as issuer to debt, not a loan. So we'll call it a bond. The county would put its name on the limited offering memorandum. There's a lot of tax documents. There's a lot of documents, legal documents associated with how the county gets, we'll call it serves as an issuer. But I want to make it clear that you are not obligated. The only risk that the county has is what I'll call a headline. All right, because your name is on the cover of that limited offering memorandum. And if something should go wrong, somebody could research the document, the county's name is on the top of the document. Right? So there is, if something goes wrong, the headline risk that your name's attached to it. You have no responsibility. No one's gonna come chasing the county for one penny. But because your name is on that offer, sometimes you have to.
So if they go bankrupt or something, our name.
Yeah, let's say they don't pay their debt service. Someone's gonna start down the path of trying to unravel who's responsible. The county's gonna be on that, and you might end up in the news. Because it'll say Trumbull County issued debt to Shepherd of the Valley.
Let's say headlines.
Yeah.
Mr. Szynski, it came up, or when they were here last week, does it hinder our credit rating at all?
It does not. It does
It's just
not.
that they qualified, so that's what you explained.
We will talk about that. It doesn't impact your credit rating, but it could have a financial impact to you. Depending on the year at which they issue this debt. And I brought a little primer about bank qualification. If this is the right time to introduce it. You have a copy here? Well, let me say, okay, thank you. So, did that answer your question about the credit rating? Because we don't go before the bond rating agencies. They're likely not gonna get this debt rated, but I can't say that for sure. I'm not their financial advisor. They're not asking us to get it rated, and we are not being rated. And candidly, typically, the county's not pursuing a rating. It's not in any relation to this issuance of debt. Okay, but as Auditor Yoder mentioned, there is a financial implication in that, and this goes back to federal tax law. There is a vehicle by which we issue municipal bonds that is called bank qualified. And this little primer here is designed to explain that if a small issuer or any issuer issues less than $10 million worth of bonds in a calendar year, the purchaser, that bond, whatever that one might be, has the luxury of deducting any interest expense that they might incur if they borrowed money to buy the bonds. Typically, that's not how we think about it, right? We think about, we buy bonds or we buy a treasury certificate, we're buying it from our savings. Typically, that's how we think about it. But there are financial institutions who borrow money to buy bonds, put in a portfolio. When they borrow money, of course, they're incurring an interest expense of those dollars that they borrow. Bank qualification, if you were to buy a bond that's bank qualified, if the issuer, Trumbull County as an example, issued less than $10 million worth of debt in a calendar year, that investor can deduct the interest expense. The net result of that means that it's more attractive to certain investors, because they want otherwise be able to deduct the interest. By virtue of the fact that it's more attractive, it should likely be sold or issued at a lower interest rate. Now, the question is, what's that rate? How important is that to an investor? And this one pager again will suggest to you that it's not been uncommon for that lower interest rate for bank qualification to be anywhere from 10 to 25 basis points. But we've seen it as high as 50 basis points, depending on the world and the economy and tax rates. It can fluctuate. It's not a fixed rate. It's subject to whatever market determination is happening on a given day. And the investor sentiment about what they're willing to buy. So what we have is potential exposure to that, meaning the county currently has a little over $7 million worth of short-term notes outstanding. It is the county's intention, perhaps, to issue that debt, and it's already done so this year. Earlier this year, the county rolled over $7 million worth of 1-year bond anticipation note. Should the county issue in the same year that the Shepherd of the Valley issues, that conduit debt counts against that $10 million. I won't go down the path of all the component unit, we'll call it terminology, but it counts against your $10 million and therefore would take what we issued earlier this year with bank qualified. It would now no longer qualify as bank qualified if Shepherd of the Valley, if the Trumbull County Commissioners determined to issue conduit debt in the same year we do. Now, the good news is this. When we do that debt earlier, that $7 million notes earlier this year, we make a reasonable assessment as to whether or not the county intends to be over $10 million. And we didn't expect it to be over $10 million. So it was issued at bank qualified. And I did check with our bond counsel, the county's bond counsel, that if Shepherd of the Valley were to issue, that was issued would not be compromised. All right. But it's only 1-year note anyway. So we don't have a big exposure there to begin with. However, if we were to convert those notes to bonds next year, make them instead of a 1-year note, let's just say we made it a 20-year borrow, converted it all from variable, from 1-year fixed rate to 20-year fixed rate. And we did it the same year that Shepherd of the Valley asked you to do it, and they happened to overlap in the calendar year. We would likely not receive the benefit of that bank qualification because our debt be considered non-bank qualified, as would theirs, which would be not bank qualified. What's the result of that? The result of that isn't just an estimate, okay? But Shepherd of the Valley has said, we will reimburse the county for any interest expense that you might additionally incur from issuing non-bank qualified debt as opposed to bank qualified debt. I'm throwing around a lot of terminology here, and I apologize for that. I'm trying to get to the impact of this. The point is, if Shepherd of the Valley were to issue this year, no impact to the county. If they issue next year, and the county would happen to agree that we're going to convert those notes to bonds and sell a series of bonds next year, you might pay, and let's just use 5 to 15 basis points in higher interest rate than you would otherwise at Shepherd and Valley, not done with St. Gallen here. What's that mean? That means on 5 basis points, it's about $6,500 in additional interest expense for every $1 million that you borrow. So let's do the math. Got $7 million outstanding. All right. And if we were to go from BQ to non-BQ, we might likely pay $6,500 for every million. We're talking about 7 million, $35,000 additional over the course of a 20-year borrow. We would be reimbursed by Shepherd of the Valley for that interest expense. Now, if instead it's not 5 basis points, let's suppose it's 20 basis points. So now we're talking 6,500, right? Times 7, 35, right? 7 times 5, 35,000. Oh, 7 times 6 is $42,000. I'm sorry, I did my math wrong. $42,000, all right? And now we're talking $42,000 and it's 22 basis points. That's $160,000. They owe the county for compromising your bank qualified status. Walk through that again if you want. Everybody clear?
Next
Yeah.
question, that's just based on the 7 that we're talking about now, if we take on board that, which I'm sure they're at least discussing for some projects, it will be.
Right, so for, as I said, it's $6,500 per million. 7 times 6, 42, a little more than that, right? So if we go to $10 million, we're talking about $65,000, right? Of interest expense that the county, that the Shepherd Valley would have to reimburse.
Could there ever be a case where, for some reason, Shepherd of the Valley, I don't even know how they operate there, you know, whether, you know, there's such a thing as going belly up or bankruptcy or what have you. Could there ever be a case where they can't pay back that amount?
It's possible. We're not here to attest to the financial stability of Shepherd of the Valley. That's what I refer to as headline risk.
Given, Mark usually county auditor, right? Given that there have been some healthcare providers that have been within our own area with different type of healthcare, it could happen. They don't, yeah, we're not here to do that, but
Right.
you have to look at, in your own mind, look at, yeah, we need elderly care is sort of booming, but things can happen to any provider. And any business, actually, any business can have bad judgment. Or, you know, or management. I mean, obviously you have to look at track record and all that. That's something you guys have to kind of weigh in your own mind. But any business could go, any business could go belly up. So you have to keep that in mind. Again, that doesn't affect us financially. The biggest thing that affects us financially is a big problem. But you guys also know that if like this happens, then the headline risk. And you guys have to decide that. That's not our decision. That's
But
I just wanted to make sure.
my question is, if we borrow the money and then we're obligated, that takes us to that 42,000 or that 65,000, wherever that range is, and then something would happen and they would go bankrupt, then are we still obligated as a county to pay that 42,000 or that 65,000?
You are.
Even though
Wow.
they're going.
We're paying a higher interest
Yeah,
expense.
you're gonna
So no
pay higher
matter,
interest.
no matter what happens, once we say yes, then we're obligated to that.
Well,
higher
you're
number.
risking that higher because you're not, I'm sorry, right, you're Trumbull County Auditor. You're risking that higher number because we'd be paying that in interest. So it's not like it's a fee that we're paying
So
somebody
even
else.
though they would go
Right, if they,
bankrupt, we're still obligated to pay that higher number
they would,
for that term.
So the reality is, they would have to pay that to us when we issue the bond. It's not like it's gonna come over multiple years. When we were to issue the bonds, let's say it happens next year hypothetically, and we were to incur that higher interest rate because we lost our bank qualified status, they owe us a check then, not multiple years. Now, it's my understanding, the whole amount, that's what they would agree to.
they do a calculation of what it would cost over the time for us and they pay us that. That's
So we get that up front.
Correct. Now, it's my understanding that Shepherd Valley is trying to get this done this year,
Yes.
which in that scenario, we don't have.
So if
any-
that's the case, we're not really losing it.
we're not
Right,
losing
correct.
it. Right. The risk is they don't get it done this year, we do it next year, and at the same time, the county determines to convert or issue bond, long-term bond in some manner, that we would lose that bank qualified status and incur that additional interest. I mean, they have the project started, it's my understanding. They've broken ground and they're building. So I would imagine they want to move quickly to get their financing. I'm not being, flippant about this. Seems as though they are trying to move rapidly.
So the bottom line is for the county, we would qualify for the bank qualified if it as a benefit. What is the benefit for the county? Bank qualified status?
It is,
that?
it is.
We would
Unless-
lose that.
We would
That's
lose it.
If they,
If they don't do it
Right.
this year, if it goes into next year, which again, you guys heard them, I'm sorry. John heard them last week say that it is very much their bond council said it's very much their intention. Sure, things can happen, and that's, you have to be, and my desire to have Matt there was to make sure that you, as a board, understood all the risks before you did something. And it's not that I'm saying it's super risky, it's just I wanted all of you to have make an educated decision.
does the county incur any additional expenses?
So the county,
Attorneys, any
yeah,
kind of, I mean,
you'll no doubt, and you will be, you can charge a fee on top of that. So they are of the understanding that they will reimburse the county for any fees that the county would incur. On top of that, the county can charge a fee. And as an example, why would the county charge a fee? Well, I gave you this one-page disclosure in the notes. If the SEC changes the rules in the future about disclosure of any conduit debt, that might cost the county more money for, we will call it audit time, that the county might incur because it has to do more research on the conduit issuer. We can't know what the audit team's gonna do 10 years from now, just like Sarbanes-Oxley and Dodd-Frank, things change by way of the SEC and disclosure. We can't know what the county's involvement in an audit, future audit might look like in terms of expense you might incur. So you can charge a fee, an annual fee. Most port authorities charge a fee to serve as a issuer. They charge a fee based upon the amount that's outstanding. But I've had issuers serve as conduit and charge an annual fee with the concerns about what it might cost to change, or we'll call it increase the time involved in an audit because of the conduit issue.
We charge a fee now,
Not to my knowledge, not to my knowledge. And typically,
and then if we would charge a fee, who would help us set that amount? You?
yeah, that was my question.
I could give you some guidance on it, but it really is there's no science behind it. The science being, can you do it less than the Port Authority do? That's the science. And will that entice them to use one issuer over another? It's likely who would serve as the professionals and what are the fees to do so. But the county can charge, and I'll just give you an example though. I'm sorry, you had a question?
Hearing all this, there's really no advantage to us to do this, other than being nice guys hoping that Shepherd Valley succeeds in their development.
Well, they
In
are.
Columbia.
Yeah, they're a not-for-profit in your community, and typically port authorities will help the not-for-profit community by helping with this calculation.
So the Port Authority should be dealing with this, not the commissioners.
I'll say it this way. Port authorities are better equipped to do this type of work, but their fees can be onerous. That would discourage them, and counties and cities are being asked more frequently to do this type of conduit. No question. But port authorities are a good vehicle and the typical vehicle for this type of issuance.
Louisiana has a great Port Authority, as do we.
But again, I mentioned the county's done it. I've seen cities do it for this type of not-for-profit healthcare, senior care. It happens all the time. I'm not going to suggest that the Port Authority is the preferred. They do it more frequently. County, obviously, in 12 years since you've been asked to do it. But the county is a legitimate, viable vehicle for them to pursue. The question is, like fees that you want to incur, intangible cost to the audit staff, to the auditor staff in terms of future liability of the audit that might have to be done there. But there's not a lot of upside. I'm not gonna say there's upside, other than you collecting a fee on the front end and perhaps over time to serve as the conduit. And you're helping out a
Right,
lawyer.
well, that's what I was gonna say, Martha, you're auditor, just like there's that headline risk, there's also the headline benefit of good PR with the community, goodwill. And again, it's up to you guys, or the board to assess that individually, but there is that outside.
But the taxpayers are already paying him to be here today out of our budget. We're not getting reimbursed for it. They're paying your staff for the work that you have to do, where you can be doing other stuff. We really don't need to be involved in this, is what I'm looking at. If there's other options for project in Columbiana County, and they typically are shopping it around anyway. Shop it. So, we got our own issues we're dealing with here right now.
How soon do they need an answer?
I don't know the answer. They're trying to move quickly. So I would presume they're trying to get to a conclusion sooner than later.
And when's the Port Authority gonna give them an answer?
I think the Port Authority has already given them. Columbiana Port Authority. I did reach out to the Western Reserve Port Authority and they were interested in hearing more about the financing. I'm not sure that it's their model. Typically, not every Port Authority has the same issue. But they were interested in hearing more about it. But I think it is what Shepherd of the Valley is doing is in going to the various potential issuers, determining a level of interest and what that level of interest might cost them in terms of fees.
I would think it would behoove the Columbiana Port Authority to do this for their community with Shepherd of the Valley, like Trumbull has done with our, I know it might, my personal opinion, I know it might, commissioners, it might look like a good gesture. However, we've already evidently done that good gesture. There's monies that are, that like the commissioner had said, we're here today. We're talking about this, we're taking time. We don't know about fees. There's gray areas. I personally believe that, and again, I'm just one commissioner, but I personally believe this would behoove Columbiana County to be able to get involved with this more so than Trumbull County at this point. That's just my personal opinion. But I appreciate everything that you're bringing up and that the auditor had brought this, to the forefront here to let us know exactly what's involved. I just don't think there's really much benefit to it.
Not much risk, but not much benefit either.
Yeah, I just don't know.
I definitely think about it, but I understand both sides of it. I think I'd like to see what Columbiana Port Authority is gonna say before we commit. Like auditor, you said, healthcare is a big issue and we need to provide a service. Today, for that.
I absolutely agree with that.
But
But it's also in
it's-
Columbia.
It's in
it's
Columbiana.
Columbiana, so I get it.
Could
Chrissy has something else.
Christy Sestaric Auditor's Office, part of this issuance, I understand, if I understand correctly, is refinancing some of the Trumbull County debt. Right?
I believe that's
It's
the
it's
case.
refinancing the older Trumbull County debt and a
right.
new additional debt for
Sorry.
Columbiana County. So it's not just Columbiana County's project, it is related to some Trumbull County issues.
How much does Trumbull County at the end there?
We believe the dollar amount outstanding for that Trumbull County issue was 28,550,000.
And they are looking
And
to.
what's the total amount they're looking for?
So my understanding, again, I've had no direct conversation with them, but by the way of the attorneys, I'm led to believe they've got about $40 million worth of refinancing, which I would imagine includes this, and about $60 million worth of new borrowing for their project.
So approximately a third.
So if they refinance and say Columbia County Port Authority takes this deal, then they're gonna pay us off and we have no more of their stuff here that if they refinance it.
Refinance it would no longer be through us.
It wouldn't be through us, we'd be free and clear of
We would-
what we did with them before in the past.
I suspect that. Yeah, I can't know that for sure, but if they refinance your component, then your debt that you issued back in 2013 be fully regained. Presumably.
And that goes back to. Where's that money go back to?
To the investors, There's a lender,
We're
there's a
a
lender.
concern. We're-
Yeah.
Through. But it's reportable on,
Yeah.
it's reportable under all of our audits, which is what Sue was talking about. If things change, that requirements change, it could cost us more money to do that reporting. And so that's where we're talking about recovering fees. That's one of the things we would factor in. It sounds like the commissioners are leaning towards a no, but would like a little more time.
Yeah.
Hearing that.
I want Shepherd Valley to succeed, but I got a personal, even my personal finances. I'll loan money to anybody, friend, family, if they would need money. If you don't pay me back, don't come back for another loan until you pay me back. And now it's, we've loaned them money. We did this long before.
We've acted as a conduit.
We acted as a condo, we did it before. Now they want to refinance that and get more and use us again for something that isn't even gonna benefit us directly.
So again, our future Trumbull County Auditor, they are kind of fast tracking this. What would you as a board like to do next? It sounds like you wanna have a little more time, but again, I don't know, like, we're going to see or even know what Columbiana is doing at this point, and I kind of, my thought is that maybe you would like me to go back and talk to like Eachler and Aaron, let's see, from Blake is our bond council, and Aaron is theirs. And say you would like more time, is that what you want me to do, or
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's
I'm not ready to
fine.
make any decisions right now
and
with
then
this,
do
but
you want them to come back in and talk again?
we'll see what happens with Columbiana, I think, and I think that, they're pushing. Because they were here last week, so they want something to happen. Now, it just could possibly be that Port Authority, Columbiana will say, hey, listen, we're interested in this and, and then we're out of it anyway, and then.
And if Columbia is charging a fee, I'd like to know what it is and we at least match what they do. So it's an even deal, let them pick even deals. Why give them a sweetheart deal better than what everyone else is willing to give?
You mean you're willing to do this with the fee?
Yeah, if the Port Authorities want to do it with a fee, we should get something out of it.
I'll be honest with you, that is something that I've been trying to preach, that when cities, whoever it is coming, knocking on them, I'm sorry.
It's.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, you had a question, Sherry, go ahead. Ask.
Sherry Taylor, Commissioner's Office, I was just where are the Columbiana County Commissioners in this?
I no idea,
No one knows.
no idea. Communication.
So as far as next, Martha County Auditor, so as far as the next steps, would maybe you and I and Chrissy and Blake need to do a call and kind of communicate what's happening here today? Is that?
I think it's fair with-
appropriate?
I think the question that's being asked by the commissioners is, what fee is being charged by the Columbiana Port Authority? We may want to consider a comparable fee. And so choose who you want, but we're not the discount issuer.
Right. I
That's a
agree
fair way
with
to
that.
say that?
That's exactly fair.
I agree with
Exactly.
that. Okay.
Thoughts right out of my mind to your mouth.
Okay,
We
okay.
will schedule that.
So what you're saying, Commissioner, is that you're okay with it if we collect the fee?
I mean, we gotta get something out of it. Right now, I don't see any benefit to us at all, other than us being a good neighbor and then what happens when the next Mercy Insight, somebody else, the next one wants to do the same thing with us. They're like, well, you did it with these guys at no fee and got nothing out of it. Do it again. If we're at least we're getting something out of it, I could stomach a little more looking at the taxpayers saying, we used your money or your credit rating or your county to make some money off of this deal that was good for our citizens.
I think it's gonna be a very big amount of money, I can tell you. I don't think it's gonna be a great amount of money, really.
Would we want to still try to get that done this year so it doesn't affect our debt next year?
Oh,
And then we would have the fee that would benefit us versus the fee that would supplement our interest that we would be losing.
if I might answer that, I think it is in our benefit. Get a quick resolution to this,
Right.
so we help them try to get this done this year. We don't have to worry about bank qualified, non-bank qualified as it relates to Trumbull County. I'm not saying we're rushing, we're not gonna rush. But to the extent that we can get an answer back to you and let them know that there will be a fee, it'll be a fee comparable to the Port Authority. Columbiana Port Authority, know that. We're, again, I do want to emphasize, there is no backing by the taxpayers here. Okay, the only thing we have is headline risk. Should something happen to this agent, to this shepherd of the valley,
In the news.
now we're in the news because we have our name on the cover.
And they're talking, commissioners, they're talking 28 million to us and then another 60, you said?
North of that, north of that.
North, that's, it might be $100 million. I'm sure if we charge a fee, even if it's 1%, that's a nice chunk of money. That's $1 million for us.
Hey,
Well,
I mean, I don't know what that
We have
number
an
is.
additional cost to the auditor's office. I mean, I think it costs the county more than it would cost the Port Authority too, so. You know, maybe our fee needs to be a little bit higher than the Port Authority is.
So I can give you what I believe to be as an approximate range, right? Because I did ask this question of a couple different port authorities. And again, they will discount their fees for not-for-profits as opposed to a private company that wants to use a port authority. It's my understanding that the Port Authority, if an example, charges based on a number of basis points, depending on the size of the borrowing, and they have an annual fee besides that, many of them. But if I had to guess what the Columbiana Port Authority is going to charge, I suspect it's in a range of $100,000 to $150,000. What they would charge to serve as issuer. That's likely their fee and professional fees as well. That would roll up into the financing. That's the total cost of them doing financing.
And there's a yearly fee?
They typically charge a yearly fee. They may waive it. I don't speak for the Port Authority, but I've seen it done for not-for-profit.
It's like a, if you will, a sign-on bonus fee and then a year, like
I
a,
mean,
$150,000 and then.
yeah, not uncommon. I'm not saying it's gonna get done in every case, like you said. Generally, they are more accommodating to a not-for-profit like this and won't charge that. But I can't say for sure. I've never done a deal worked with the financing with the Columbiana Port Authority. People who have.
150,000 goes a little way, but I mean, it's a county.
It just sounds like a lot of work, like you said, we're
It does.
past
Yeah, it is.
Well, still gonna offset fees
already.
that you're gonna incur.
Right, that's true.
Some of
too.
them things are being
Right.
used to offset fees for your attorneys. and
Sure.
We're gonna represent you in helping to make sure all documents protect you
Yeah.
as a county.
And plus, we have the prosecutor's office involved, we have the auditor's office involved, yeah. That all,
Yeah.
we should at least recoup those costs, I mean. Or whatever it costs you for this, we should.
We have to get together with Christie to sort of figure out. But I do think then, well, we will, Mark Dishman, under Matt and Christie and I will give him what happened here, and then I will. Report.
Great, yeah, I agree.
And
with
it may
you.
be a new issue, they may just throw it on the.
In a perfect world, if I'm paying the same thing with a community or an issue who has not done this before, at least hasn't done it in 12 years, versus a port authority that does it every day.
Right.
I think I know which way I lean, right?
Okay.
But that doesn't mean there's not something else that we're unaware of. That there's a way into this equation. So that was the topic one. Okay. Topic two, new borrowing.
Yes, we can talk a little bit about existing, and then, and I'll have Christy come over, the.
Why was Christie at the table?
Because there's no chair.
Get her a chair.
I told
I'll get her a chair.
I
No, you don't
told
got
her
it.
to
I'll get her a chair. No. I've already shared it.
Sure.
As we are,
Sure was here.
getting the chair organized. Last week we were at, during the conversation on, with, Shepherd of the Valley Council and our council, a question was raised about our existing debt. Although we had informed, the commissioners early in the year, Christie went ahead and updated it for today, for the commissioners. And I'm gonna let Christie sort of review what she's put together, and then we can talk a little bit more about more debt and how that works through, so the commissioners have a little better understanding.
Quincy Clerk Auditor's Office, the top page is just a brief summary of our debt. The top part is the outstanding notes that are due March 2026. I divided it by the governmental type and then the enterprise type. And then the outstanding bonds, those are to various expiration dates. Yeah, some of them are like 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. But again, I divided them by governmental type, which would be the 12.2 million. Enterprise type, 305,000. Special assessments of 187,000, and USDA loans is 2.3 million. That's also, USDA is also done by the enterprise fund. Sanitary engineer.
I was gonna ask you to, for the
Sorry.
commissioner's benefit, to explain the difference between governmental type and enterprise type briefly, and maybe also special assessment.
The governmental type is the ones that were, or for the general government of the county that's not sanitary, water and sewer. Everything else is considered general governmental type. The enterprise type is water, sewer, and sanitary. The special assessments, we are charging customers to pay those loans, and they pay them back on their tax bill as special assessments. And those are mostly, I'm not gonna say all, but they are mostly sanitary and water, sewer, and special projects that sanitary did, and charging the customer, the taxpayer along those, put in a new sewer and we're gonna assess you, $100 a year, and then we use that money to pay those loans back. The USDA is just loans that water, sewer, and sanitary bought from the USDA, and they pay those annually. And the second part of this is the more detailed part of our. So if you wanted to see what governmental type notes outstanding we have right now, which would be the elevators, engineering roof, stone building, engineering office, and then we have JFS windows on there, but we paid that off. I just have it on here because we have beginning balance. And then the enterprise type is, the Meadowbrook sanitary sewer, Blueprint to Prosperity, Elmwood Water, Pendleton Gilmore, Blueprint Phase 2, and State Water Regionalization. Any question on our notes outstanding that are due in March? And then the bottom part are our long-term debt. And the first part is the governmental type. We just call that bonds 301. So Fund 301 is what pays our governmental type fund. And that is paid for with the transfer. Most of it is paid for with the transfer from the sales tax fund. The only one that is not is the highways multi-vehicle wash, and highway pays for that. The second part is the special assessments. We just list those on the third page, and then we list off the enterprise bonds and then the USDA. I also have a little summary down there on when our principal is paid. So the yellow highlighted ones, those are the ones that are due in March 2026. The orange one, which is the USDA, they pay that annually and every year in March. The blue is annually in June. green is annually in September, and the pink is annually in December. Which is why, you see on the third page, our principal balance at December 31st, 2025 is $14.6 million. And that does not match the amount that I have on the front page as our principal outstanding right now. And that's because we have 4 bonds that don't pay principal until December. And those are the ones highlighted in pink on the second page. So I still included those.
So the 14, just to clarify, and explain a little bit, so that 14,672 is really what we're projecting at the end of the year, what our balances will be.
Right.
And then our current balance is 15 because there are payments that we will make in December.
This is supposed to be what this is today's or yesterday's date. Right? And then
That's for the, for back, for
After-
bonds.
for bonds.
Christie, if we were to remove everything that, like sanitary type things that we know we're getting paid back for over time, or assessment things that we know we're getting paid for by the customer, but they're in a bond now. What actually, like real stuff is gonna come out of general fund or stuff that we really owe? What is that about?
that's the governmental type 1, the 12.2.
So the county is in the general fund, 12.2 million in debt.
Long-term
Long-
outstanding
long-term.
debt. The notes outstanding up top, where those are the short-term, that's 4.7. So add those together, about 17. I'm not
So
good
we're
about
17 million in
Yeah.
debt.
So there's no other grants on the way or no other reimbursements on the way, they're gonna pay that down. Those are all just fees that we're gonna have to pay.
And that costs us
For government.
That would be the second page. So that where it says total bonds 301, you want to go to principal retire. So in 2025, that was the 1.4 million plus the 363 in interest for this year. So 1.8.
each year.
Well, that's for this year. It fluctuates each year. I have the one for 2026 started, but the principal we have to pay based on an amortization schedule, and the principal does fluctuate from year to year, and sometimes between 5 and 10,000.
My theater under, and so the service for all of our debt is done from the sales tax off the top. So when we project our estimated revenue for the general fund, it's after we take the sales tax. Okay, so I want to make sure that that was clear.
Just on page 2, I actually put 2026 in here. So there's the 2026 number down there. 1.5 is going to be the principal that we have in 2026 for this governmental type, and 325,000 is going to be the interest on this governmental type.
So auditor and Chris, like last year, when we were going through the budget for 2025, just to put it in perspective, it was that 2 million, like roughly off the top, was the debt rollover, so what they're anticipating to change, right? Is for 2026, we know that we're gonna, to your point, automatically take off at least 1.8 off the top. At least,
Yes.
keyword, at least.
Well, and the 2 million,
So-
because I said about 1.8 for here, and we took off 2 million. That's because the interest that we had to pay up here for the short term.
Right,
Debt.
so it's both,
sense.
we're servicing both.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand that. So when we consider when the budget commission considers our estimated revenue, we do that not just based on our total sales tax, but based on our total sales tax minus the debt.
Okay, question for the professional. You deal with municipalities, this is what you do, this type of stuff. Is that a lot of debt? Is that not much debt? We hear rumors of Lake County's financing the safety building for 200 million. Mahoning County's borrowing 60 million for a new building. How much debt should we have, and where do we stand with 15 million that Trumbull County owes?
So,
It depends on income, I would think.
yeah, so you think about that in the same way you think about your personal plan. You know, city, county, village. Your ability to repay debt is a function of your cash flow. Do you have too much debt relative to the county's assessed valuation? No. Do you have it based on other metrics that they measure? Is it debt per capita income, debt per capita, things of that nature? The answer is that is moderate, right? The the good news about your debt profile is that for the most part, most of your debt is paid off within 10 years. A lot of it being paid off in the next 5 to 7 years. So your debt profile is very nicely weighted short, as opposed to having a bunch of 20-year bonds. Some of your utility debt is longer. But for the most part, much of your outstanding bonds that we show here in the governmental type are relatively short, within 20 years. Your debt profile is moderate and the repayment is even, we'll call it slightly above. Typically, you look to try to get 10, I will say 50 to 70% of your debt paid off in 10 years. You're nicely in that range, where you're leaning more towards 70 than you are close to 50. Your debt profile is moderate in terms of overall outstanding debt, and it looks nicely positioned from the repayment of it, which is the next 10 years. So I hope that answers your question. But again, I go back to the overriding issue, which is it's a function of cash flow. How much is this annual debt service for the next 10 years as a component or a percentage of your overall budget? Does it lean, how much that compromises other operations?
Correct.
And I think that's all said, well said and done, except for what's happening with property taxes.
Right, if our income
Are we gonna
goes
be
down,
experiencing?
then all that's gonna change if our income.
Right, our income and Chrissy had something but out because you asked about, or you mentioned property taxes. As I mentioned, Mark, you from county auditor at the meeting, all three of you were at last night. The impact of a total abolition of property taxes on our specific budget, on countywide, but just our general fund would be right around 8
Which 8 million equals
million.
0.25% sales
Quarter.
tax increase.
Correct. Go ahead, Chris.
Christie Sestak Auditor's Office. I was just gonna say on page 2 of this, under the bonds 301, those top 2 bonds there, the various county improvements and the Oryx project, those both will be paid off next year. If you look over to, you see the principal balance at the end of this year is 110,000, and our principal next year is 110,000. So those will be off in 2027.
At the end,
Yeah, but those top 2.
at the end of 2026.
And then 2026, we won't.
Right, right.
I mean, I like the position we're in, currently, but let's, before making any kind of crazy decisions, see where we're headed and what this looks like, next year,
We're kind of in limbo until next year,
kind of,
till we see what happens in next November.
right? Unfortunately. But like you said, Auditor, Martha, if it does happen, we're about 8 million. And
We're not in market. Counties in general, are not in bad of shape.
As
If
the
that would
townships.
happen as the townships, as we
Right.
talked about last night, it would be pretty catastrophic for
It would
townships.
be.
It still would require on the commissioner's part, the ability to raise sales tax, he would need to do that. As we talked about, let's say, I don't want to get too far afield, townships don't get that option, it's not currently. There's other implications that I'm not sure we're gonna get into today, for us as a, for the state as a whole, with regard to bond rating and things like that. A lot of our bonds and that, it's might know better than I can, but, bonds are backed, a lot of them are backed by inside knowledge. If we have property tax demolition, those
It's
with
10%.
with.
Is it 10% inside?
10 mils.
10 mils, 10 mils.
The county only has 1.8.
Yeah.
1.8, which is, that's what that 8 million comes from, is our inside knowledge. But, and that's us as a county general fund. There are other functions of the county that are also impacted, right? Senior levy. Anyone at MRDD or DD, I should say that, so.
Board of DD.
Board of DD, I should know that after 30 years as a professional. Children's services, anyone that has a levy, the health department, all of that is affected. When I say 8 million, it's the general fund.
Well, if you also, the thing is, if that goes into effect, then a lot of services from the township could be cut, and then they're gonna be looking
Right,
for
and
the county.
there's
So-
much more of an
Yeah,
impact
so
than
that
that
8
basic
million
$8
dollars,
million. That's
yeah,
right,
that can really
Right.
skyrocket. Very
absolutely.
quickly.
But, go ahead.
Auditor Yoder, what about even just So outside of the governmental types too, it's just, it would be good to know because we have so much special assessments, USDA and enterprise. Could those potentially be affected if the tax, like would the bond rate be
Those-
affected if it were to be, because that all matters too. I mean, everything matters collectively.
I don't think, if you don't mind my answering.
Go ahead.
I mean, a special assessment is considered a tax, but the tax that typically a voter, or I mean, the residents have a vote agreed to assess themselves for the improvement. So I don't think that would be subject to a repeal because the residents.
What about the USDA though and enterprise types?
Those are.
That's backed by.
Yeah.
Yeah, the USDA doesn't get paid back by capital charges on their sewer bills, so they're not untaxable at all.
Okay. And then
Same with the
enterprise.
enterprise.
Right,
Yeah.
the only thing that
Okay,
goes
perfect.
on to as special assessments with regard to that is those projects where there's a special assessment that they've already agreed to. But back to that, the bonds being back. I don't completely know what the implications would be on some of those that are currently collateralized by the envelope.
No question, no, I mean, this is a catastrophic event
Absolutely.
for all,
Miles.
yeah, for all Ohio, political subdivisions. If something like this should occur, and even if it's in a small degree, it affects all of us. Debt service. At the state, at the revised code level, is first and foremost. So even if your revenue sources are taken away, you still have to serve debt service from whatever's left over, whether or not be property taxes or sales tax or anything else. That's the priority that the budget commission is tasked with, making sure that debt service is paid first. So it is, yeah, which is why it comes off first. So it is a catastrophic scenario. Wise of you to be prudent in your delay, that kudos to you. I mean, this is a big burden to a lot of folks trying to measure 2026 and thereafter as to what this impact is gonna mean. And candidly, most people, when they talk about this repeal, they don't talk about a solution, right? They just talk about the repeal. So, debt service,
They don't have one.
they don't have one, no. So,
Or they have a phony, I'm sorry,
No.
they have a phony one, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
yeah, I mean, what we've seen in past experiences like this where we'll call it revenues you used to receive, inheritance tax, whatever, property tax, commercial, whatever. The state will intervene for a short period of time to try to lessen the burden, but the full burden ends up at the political subdivision level at some point in time. So wise of the county commissioners to be prudent and be alert to the concerns you have. But debt service will be paid first, no matter what the scenario.
So what you're saying, to put it in plain English, we should be very cautious about what it is.
I think that's a healthy way to think about it.
Do the commissioners have any further questions with regards to that before it can be solved for?
Thank Mr. Szynski for, thank you, Martha, for bringing this, bringing it to our attention.
Christy, Sarah Auditor's office, while Matt is still here, I'd like to bring up the $800,000 request to transfer from 949 to general fund. We just were curious what the intent on that is. It supposed to be a transfer? Is it supposed to be an advance? Is that money going to be paid back to 949? For the dog kennels, 911 corner, the loan, yes.
I think part of it was going back into the contingency fund that we borrowed from earlier. 500 to go in there and then 300 to go back into the NCO.
Well, this was something you'd asked for, it was.
Yeah, in other words, we were just paying it back money that we loaned, that we.
So for
took out of-
contingencies to FCO.
The other one, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was
No,
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 I was
That's
understanding
not-
totally different.
right. Sheriff Taylor Commissioner's Office, we were asked to take from the MCO 800,000, put it into the contingency fund. What she's asking is,
are we acting as we're advancing ourselves for 911, the coroner and EMA? That's the question.
Because we-
No, I think. What I thought is we have that extra money in the income tax. Like big sales tax, okay, we're gonna take it back and take it back to where we borrow. We borrowed 500,000 out of the contingency fund, which from the clerk of courts, about 2 million, they gave us, we were gonna put 500. 300,000 back in, right,
Okay.
right, that we were just paying ourselves back out of that.
Oh, so you wanna
That's
go,
not what was said. I mean, I don't know, I
We
was.
wanted to go the other way. So you wanted to come out of general fund and go to those two
Fund
things.
into MCO and contingency,
Right,
not MCO.
No.
Okay, we have to just completely
Yeah, right.
undo.
I was mistaken, then. When we said we had 3.8 million, you said take 800,000, I thought you were taking it out of there to put into a fund, a special fund for like 911.
well, we know where it's at, we're just paying ourselves back. So when it comes down the road,
So,
that money's there.
So we're taking,
contingency, 800,000, Mark, you're kind of got it, just to clarify, so, and make sure everybody's on the same page. So 800,000 from contingency in the general fund, 500 to MCO and 300
to sales tax?
to sales tax?
no,
No,
800,000 out of general fund,
correct.
is what he's saying. 500,000 to contingency and 300 to
So I would just increase both
Yeah,
budgets. that's
Medicare.
all.
No, MCO,
MCO.
MCO is,
Right,
yeah.
okay, wait a second, you said, say it again,
Take 3,000 out of general.
500,000 to contingency, 300,000 to MCO, making MCO be 4.1.
contingency is part of the general.
Yeah.
Contingency is John. Are you talking out of 921 or maybe 9?
Well, whatever,
There-
whatever the fund is, where the clerk of courts money.
That's-
We had 940,000 left or whatever.
That's okay, the general fund.
Where we had $2 million.
That was a
okay?
in the contingencies.
It's a contingency account in the general fund.
In the general.
Correct.
Yes.
So 800,000 total from that,
500 and 300.
right?
From
and we're-
921 is what they're saying.
921.
They want to take 800,000 from 921.
No, out of 001, out of the general fund.
Contingency in 01.
But someone brought up sales tax,
I
like,
know, that's what I'm
Like,
trying, that's why I'm trying to get it. So
this isn't making any sense.
800,000 from contingency.
The extra money we brought in every month, like this month was
That's
another
what he's talking about,
400,000.
sales tax, that's where.
Sales
That's
tax.
sales tax.
Sales
That's saying in 920.
That does not go into general.
That's
Okay.
what, yes.
We only put general fund, wait, it's in general
Yeah.
fund.
I need to add 6 ways to say that.
Hold on one second, I get what they're.
That was what that. Everything else stays in sales tax to add to the reserves. So for it to be taken out later, we won't. take- I
Okay,
have-
so that's me saying, take it out of there then and put it into these other ones.
So
Because that's extra that wasn't budgeted, it was not anticipated.
All we're doing is paying ourselves back.
They're saying
Well,
no.
automatically,
They're saying
the
no.
sales tax stays in 921.
921.
So if you're talking about putting, you wouldn't have to, where were you talking about the 300 to go? Because 500 you said to MCO, I got that.
No,
But-
500 to contingency, 300 to MCO.
Which
I am so,
this is,
Very confused by what you're saying, I'm
for
sorry.
the people who are putting this into the
Yeah.
system, we're
Clerk of
very,
courts,
very.
500,000 to the clerk of courts fund
So
and
we-
300,000
Got
MCO.
500,000 coming from this.
The general fund, the extra sales tax money we brought in, all
That's not-
sales tax fund. Where
Okay,
where do you put that
it's
extra
in
money?
921.
Okay, so
Guys,
let's just say that
It's in 921.
all the sales tax goes into 921, well, not all of it. The
Not all
undivided
of it,
portion
yeah.
goes into 921.
Okay,
We
Not
only
this.
transfer the part that we had estimated, and we
Right.
transfer that to general fund, and so the
And the rest is
additional or excess amount stays in 921.
Okay, so take it out of 921.
500,000 from 921,
right,
500, right?
500, 800 total.
So 500 from 921 to general fund,
Yeah.
so they can, well, it goes into the revenue and then you'll 16,
Right.
you appropriate.
And then 300,000 out of 921 to go into MCO, making the MCO 4.1 now instead of 3.8.
So you're just gonna go from one of our reserve accounts to the other.
Correct, just so accounting wise, we know that's there, that we can use it as extra money that we didn't anticipate. And we decided we can use the extra money to pay for this 911 center and EMA move and stuff like that.
Cause we
It's
had
clear
really
math.
committed a million, but then we had to take some out, so all we're doing is pay ourselves back.
Okay, I gotcha. It's a little. That one is a little convoluted, but I get what you're saying. It's still all, when we do our financial statements, all of that's still the general fund. You could go from 921 to the project funds. It's a little straighter, but in your mind, however, whatever works in your minds for this is fine.
I think that's what Cheryl.
So,
We had a count from Shara 2 weeks ago that showed we had like $980,000 in the contingency fund, adding everything up of what all the extra money was. It was like 980 or 880. And so we want to add on to that, and we want to add on to the 3.8 that's in the MCO, bringing that up to 4.1, bringing the other one up to like 1.4.
Right.
So we figure we have about
I mean, I'm not,
5 point something total $1 million that's extra and not allocated anywhere
that's what
else.
we're proceeding.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Don't need to talk about that.
Declaration.
Perfect.
If we were to
Please understand that.
say, just for example, things that come through with grants, things like that. And we were to take like $3 million to build a dog pound, would that be irresponsible for us to add $3 million of debt on to what we have right now?
It is hard for me to tell a commissioner what your responsibility, your priorities are your priority. I mean, I can't, I've never been to your dog, I don't know the challenges, I present.
I'm saying from
And
a
I would tell
financial
you-
standpoint, for us to have 3 million more in debt.
And $3 million more debt is not an unreasonable amount of debt to have outstanding. Okay, especially like I said, the rapidness of your existing debt, not unreasonable to have $3 million.
If we needed to, there's a last chance, pull the trigger.
That costs us.
So, think about, annual debt service on $3 million. Think about if we're to, and I don't know what the useful life of the account, I'm presuming this is a bricks and mortar building.
Yes.
Okay, typically that's 20 years, bricks and mortar building, financed for 20 years. Think about $80,000 on the high side, $80,000 per million in annual debt service. You know, it's definitely low, so 3 million would be $240,000 in annual debt service, principal and interest. It's like a home mortgage
Per year,
per year for 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah, think about it. It's lower than that in today's environment, but I like to project high, so folks give themselves enough room here. If it's, we say it's $3 million, it might come in at 3 million two, 3 million three, something like that. But that would be about $240,000. Christie just mentioned that you're gonna be paying off some debt to the tune of about 100 some.
130,000.
So in a wash scenario, you're gonna incur 240 with $3 million worth of new debt, and you'll have taken off the books $100, almost half of that, $130,000. So you'll be it'll be somewhat, how long you do it? Won't be dramatic in the overall cash flow to the county. Is that all? Because you do have a fairly rapid retirement of your existing debt in the next 5 years. So not irresponsible. I mean, it's within reason under the current scenario.
Well, I asked you a question 15 minutes ago, should we incur more debt? And you said that we should.
We said in a scenario that's dire, right? Or that I'm not saying you do it unless you have a priority that says this is a failure. I mean, I can't tell you that they're not issued debt for a water improvement because people need water. Right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's your priority. I would say if you can postpone things, so you get clarity on property taxes, by all means. But if there's failures, the county's job to address those. I'm not telling you your job. I'm here to tell you that you try to avoid it best you can, but you still have to address the priorities of the community.
So, long story short, the 1.8 we know is coming off next year. What I think I hear you saying is that anything additional that's taken out, we have to service that, just like we're servicing the 1.8 up the top. And if there were to be an abolition of if there were to be an abolition of taxes next year, all that debt comes off the top, we have to pay that, and then whatever is left is what we run the rest of the county
Right,
on,
absolutely.
which would not be much without the, property taxes coming in. So we would be basically servicing our debt and then see what's left to run the county with.
Well, I think what's gonna happen, and this, what the state is telling us.
Sorry, I just like to make it, like, sorry.
What the state is telling us, what CCAO and what everyone's telling us, should this property taxes go away for some reason. They've already moved the bar that counties right now can collect up to 2%
Right, and so.
of sales tax. Right now, we're getting 1%. They raised that to 3%, anticipating that most every county is gonna have to go up 3%. If we went up 2% of the money we're making now, right now, we're only getting 1%, and that's how much out of the general fund? If we were to go to 3% of sales tax that we're getting on top of it, right now we're 6.5. And only out of that, only 1% of that comes to us, 5.5 goes to the state. If we, so we could technically go to 8.5. The way that under the state standards now, and that's what they're telling us. That, well, if we get rid of you're probably all gonna have to do that, and they've raised the ORC level to let us go up to 8.5 now.
They haven't.
Well, that's what they're talking, that's what's in the bill to do that.
They could do that. There's, Mark, you're from county auditor, there's a lot of floating around. I do think, if, as we talked about, there's not just the direct financial effect, there's other effects too. We have to think about that too. We can't also, obviously, all of this is up to commissioners and what they want to do. I just want to remind you that we would go out, and we have that March time when we do the short term. So we kind of, if you're going to do it next year, it's more advantageous to all do it all at once.
And from the meeting we had last night, just to regroup that. This, if sales tax, or I'm sorry, if property tax were to be reduced, eliminated, ballot issue. There's gonna be a trade-off. They want a police officer to respond when they dial 911. That's what pays for police officers to be there in the townships. If they want their township roads done, if they want an ambulance to show up when they are having a heart attack for a loved one, that's paid for by levy money or property tax money, or the levies on the property tax money. So there's no free money out there that we could just get rid of property tax and think we're gonna get the same services. That can't happen in any world because there is no other money for that. So as people talk, it sounds great. Let's get rid of property tax, let's get rid of it. But there is a trade-off that people need to be aware of as they sign these petitions and do this stuff, that they are cutting the throats of the people that provide services to them. And there is no additional money gonna fall out of the sky to supplement that. They're gonna have to pay more somewhere else, whether it be sales tax or some other means, income taxes or whatever. Cities may involve some of the townships, so you can have income tax to provide these services. They're gonna be paying somehow. It's not free. We learned that last night clearly with all the other township trustees and police chiefs and fire chiefs and township association, that there is a trade-off to removing that. Not saying them one way or another, I hate paying taxes too, but there is a trade-off. If they want to have those services they have, there will be a trade-off if they get rid of one tax. They were not.
Our commissioners, back to this, are there any other questions for Tiffany, myself, or?
Thank you.
Very educational, thank you.
Yeah.
Think we learned a
Thanks to
lot
me.
about it.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for inviting me.
Will they be,
Yeah.
I mean, the state rep.
Thursday, about they're having a meeting. They're having coffee with the state reps in Albert. I think a lot of the trustees will be there. Some coffee and some.
KT coffee. I think it's KT coffee.
So it is,
Well, they all, KT coffee.
both of them will be there. I know we're flagging.
In front of town itself.
Oh,
Pretty sure that's what that.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your evening.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next week's agenda.
Well, thank you for bringing it in.
Yeah, this week we already, it's, yeah, it's too late,
Okay.
so,
We're gonna move forward. That was pretty lengthy, but it was very educating. Okay, agenda item 1 is to dispense the reading of the minutes of the workshop and the regular meeting. 2, approve bills. 3, approve additional appropriations as submitted by the county auditor as listed. 4, approve transfer of appropriations.
Can we, that 800, can we add it in here? Or do we have to do a full different resolution for that?
It'll be on
It's not next week, but you can start doing what you need to do. We'll just approve that withdrawals and that'll be approved by you guys on next week's agenda. That way, if we
If
don't
there's no
have
trust,
time,
there's no video.
yeah, Chris might know, but I'm just saying in case if that was your hurry, you can.
Or will it be in transfer appropriations or will it be its own?
It'll be
Right.
in money transfers and it will be in additional appropriations. Yeah, and then the budget commission at their next meeting will approve the estimated revenue into those. There's so many sides to a money transfer.
Have to
We
do
will,
several steps.
yes, we'll make sure that it all gets done and on everybody's correct agendas for next week.
Thank you.
Good. Five,
And while we're on that, real quick, we did have the sales tax holiday with 2 weeks off. And from what I understand, we still made more money than we
No.
anticipated.
I corrected that. If you did read my email.
I know you said we won't get paid for a couple weeks for it, but
No, that's not what I said. Sales tax, as I've mentioned before, are always 2 months delayed. So what we received in September was for July. We will not receive August until October. So that's how we'll know that's when we'll know how we did with the sales tax.
My next email, and that usually comes in around the 19th or 20th of the month. And I'm trying to send that out right after we do the transfer. You have it timely.
so we don't know what that is yet.
No.
No, not until the 19th or 20th of October.
Okay.
And I will be on vacation at that moment, but as soon as I get back, I'll send it to you.
But the 19th to 20th of September, we'll know.
Oh, no, we already got those. October, we'll know August. We already did September.
What she said to you
It was about
July.
200,000 more, and that was July sales tax.
Okay, so in October, we'll get August.
And I will send that as soon as we get it in and have it entered into our spreadsheet.
Julie had a question.
Oh, Julie Green, I'm just curious, the first page about 26 million.
Yeah, that's a clearing account, that's a real estate clearing. We just are conservative on that and we had estimated revenue of 220 million. And our actual collections came in at 246 million. And that's for everybody in the county. That's what we distribute to all the local governments and stuff. Next week, you'll have one on there for about 3 million for the health insurance clearing account. Because we do budget conservatively. And as they note down here below, according to the auditor state policy, agency or clearing funds do not require budgeting, but historically, the county has always continued to budget for them because we have them in a lot of our reports. So we just try to keep them as up to date as all of the ones that are required to be budgeted, sorry.
For an example, just because it's gonna happen next week,
Mhm.
the 720 is one of those funds where we anticipated 18 million. I mean, I knew this year would hit 22. That's a direct correlation to the amount of hospitalization claims. So Christy and I have to work closely together to make sure that when we get to that point, that money, luckily our revenues are up because we're recouping the proper amount for the health insurance that we need to be recouping. Although nobody likes to talk about it, it's the truth and it shows that it's working because if we would have stayed at 18 million and our hospitalization claims are at 22, what I would have had to have done is come to the general fund, not the general fund to subsidize that. What we did when we came on in 2023 was we said, no, we need to increase these premium shares and department shares, so we're recouping what we're paying out in claims. So we've been effective in that. So we have enough to cover the hospitalization claims, so to speak, without dipping into anything additional. Had we not done that, it would have been a different story, truthfully.
On the transfer appropriations, what's the transfer for mileage for 911? What mileage do they get?
They just put that in there. We don't, I just look to see if they have enough in the account that's transferring the budget from. And then I don't look at the explanation. I just put what they put in. But it's probably some kind of meeting, like local meeting or a lot of times you'll see mileage for seminars and conferences. Yeah, that's generally what it is. In their piece, I don't know.
Yeah, just to remind Mark, you county auditor, just to remind the commissioners, our job is not to decide whether it's worthy or not. It is their money when we're transferring from one account or one place to another. Do we have money in the place that we're taking?
I have been working with the departments to be more specific with their explanations, because at one point they were just putting overdrawn account or transfer. So I have asked for, you know, you see my emails, please be a little more specific for the commissioners, so.
And our only judgment is to determine if there's money.
And then there, and there's a very small field
Yes, there
available,
is.
so sometimes we're trying to abbreviate things and
We do pretty
interpret,
well.
yes, we do,
pretty
yes.
well.
Mhm.
Okay. Diane, we have a resolution.
Yes, number 5 is to recognize our 2025 Trumbull County centenarians, those who are over 100 years old. Roberta Sycon used to be a council member. She now is for God's Family Service. She started this in 2003. We have a library event at the Warren Park Library where we invite any centenarians to come to our event. And in past years, we usually get about 4 to 5 people. We're expecting 4 to 5 this year. Our oldest is 108 years. So prepare a proclamation for all of our over 20 or over 100-year-olds, not 21-year-olds like Christina here, sorry. We have 22 this year and 1 at 108, 2 at 107.
Wow.
So you're invited to come 11 o'clock. We have a proclamation that we have prepared to read. I think we're going to read it tomorrow.
Will there be sitting one here tomorrow? I know last year they were here when we did it.
We tried. Find out, we don't know yet. To come to the library event, last year, we didn't have a library event, that's why we told them to come here, but this year, the library event, which includes some like fair food. They probably would prefer to go to that than to come to a commissioner's meeting, my guess. So, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Sure, I think you're gonna speak for you.
Sure, Chair Taylor, Commissioner's Office, and John couldn't be here today, so we're going to talk a little bit about the Hudson Communications is who we typically get our radios and such from. And these happen to be multi-band portable radios, so they're going to be able to have UHF, VHF, and MARCS capabilities on these portable radios. So in case there's an emergency, they will be able to access multiple bands. So that's what this is for. It was originated with the cost of that unit of the mobile command post. So this is just what we need to actually apply to that.
Are these new? Because originally the Marks didn't have that capability. They had to go back and forth. with-
I know with different radios, and this must be new. So, and John does his homework, I can tell you that. So it's the best price that you can possibly get. But this will be coming from ARPA funds.
Okay. Danza?
Yeah,
Prosecutor?
I can help with 7. Bill Danzo, Prosecutor's Office. Number 7 is to join with the prosecuting attorney to get legal counsel for the Trumbull County Clerk, or I'm sorry, Trumbull County Court of Common Pleas. Last week, we talked about the clerk of courts needing outside counsel due to a conflict of interest in challenging certain entries put on by the court. This is the other side where the court now needs outside counsel to defend those challenges. And the information's all in here for what it's worth. It was submitted to the Judicial Department of Administrative Services judicial coverage, and it was denied. So we're now here to get outside counsel appointed separately.
The $250 an hour rate.
Yeah, that's what the going rate has been for a lot of these claims lately.
Will that come out of their budget or is that something we're gonna have to pay? Decision making.
I think often it's come out of the general fund, but I know there have been times where that's been worked out between the commissioners and departments to figure out where that's gonna come from. So it's something that, the statute doesn't really say where the money comes from necessarily. It's something that you guys can work with them on, especially for, the departments that receive general fund income to operate their offices like the court does. Now, the court has some other funding streams, but that sometimes can be restricted, obviously, for its use. So
It's just like last week's motion, where's that money coming from also?
the same answer.
Same
Yeah.
answer, right?
Chair Taylor, Commissioner, historically, it's the commissioner's funds.
And what's the purpose of this lawsuit?
Without getting into, detail of it, the clerk of courts has filed a notice of appeal and is looking to appeal couple administrative entries that were filed by the Court of Common Pleas and challenging essentially the court's ability to put those entries on. And now the court is gonna, try to defend that and defend its entries. So it's just a, sort of a pending legal dispute between those two who are both clients of the prosecutor's office.
So they're gonna have to appoint a visiting judge and all that, go through all the motions.
It depends on the course that this takes. Right now, the appeal would be heard, as things are being filed right now, I will say. It would be with the Court of Appeals up the street, and it just depends on whether the judges up there would feel that they can hear that case, or whether they believe that they, in cases of appellate courts, sometimes it's assigned to another appellate district if they believe there's a conflict in the judicial system. But we haven't really seen any of that yet. We don't know exactly. The court up there and the judges may feel that they are separated enough from the Court of Common Pleas where conflict is not an issue for them. So that just remains to be seen.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you, Bill. Job and Family Services.
How you doing? Shelley Gloucester for Job and Family.
Mr. Gargano still on vacation?
No, he's had prior commitments today.
Okay, Shelley?
Number 8 is to authorize or ask for approval, I should say, for WIO allocation for 22 training opportunities and 10 job opportunities with a total cost of $228,119.68, all through WIOA. No general funding requested. And then number 9 is to approve the biennial revision to our PRC contract. This year, all we were able to do was increase the utility allocation from 175 to 250, increase the costing, things like that, and then just update the dating on the PRC contract.
I have a question. Where will that with the transportation contract that I understand that's coming due in a few days?
You mean the RFPs that are out
Uh-huh.
and who have bid on it? So far, from my understanding, we only have one that has actually submitted a bid, but that is the last
when are
that I
you
know.
gonna-
I don't have an update.
When are you gonna bring that to the commissioner so we can look at that?
I could not answer that.
And the reason I'm asking, because I've heard about it, but I want to have time to review it and not just bring it in on one day and say,
Absolutely.
stamp it the next. And of course, the prosecutor's office has to review it also.
No, that's not correct. For what it's worth, we don't review bid responses.
Not the-
That's-
you don't?
No, we will review bid packages and contracts before they go out, but we don't review the bid packages or the responses.
Like what services they're actually willing to provide is what you're saying.
You review the contract, though.
The form of the contract, yeah, but we don't review the bid responses themselves. That's for the department heads.
But before we sign the contract, you review.
Sure, yes.
You should.
I don't mean to do that, but I gotta. Your teeth.
No,
No, I don't think
that's okay. Okay, so 10, adopt a resolution to reappoint Michael Murphy for NeoCap. Is listed. Gary?
Yes, Commissioner, the standard right-of-way permits we've been issuing. A lot of new fiber optics going in the ground, so these are Grant Bridge, ASW Pipe and Lador Group. Mines Road, one's on East Market and the other one's on Carson Salt Springs. And number 12 is, again, some standard special hauling permits to Jaro Transportation.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. Julie?
Items 13 through 15 pertain to the planning commission. I did want to ask a question about the planning commission building as well, if that's all right with the commissioners. So I've been discussing with the auditor's office, the building maintenance, and the sheriff, and including her in our emails regarding where we are in the lineup for safety improvements on our building. As you know, our building is the only building in downtown Warren. Have any.
What I understand, Julie, not to interrupt you, but we just gotta get you a door. And
Well, that's, so I did speak with, Daryl about it in Harlan, and Harlan sent me one price quote, and I had volunteered to secure additional ones, but in the meantime, I wanted to know, does it really need to be replaced in order for those improvements to be installed? And Sage Integration is saying, no, it
Really?
doesn't, correct?
Well, if that's
So-
the case, because we already have you on
Yes,
the
yes.
map for all of these buildings being
Right.
done, so you should be done if it does not have an effect on
Yeah,
that.
it would be nice to have the facade replaced. However, as you know, there are a number of other things that need to be done at our building. And so
So you don't think you need a door?
they stated we do not. They said they could install it as is.
Okay.
And, you know, with all the other priorities in the lineup, which there are many, I think it's more important to have a safe environment than to be.
100%.
Yeah.
I was told you needed a door, so this is where there's
No, I felt that's
a
why.
lack of information.
No, that's okay. I emailed Sage last week. Cause that was one of my questions, and I thought, you know, I mean, if you look at the facade. It looks like it probably needed to be replaced, but that's why I reached out again. I said,
For the
so
facade or the door?
the door
Are you
and,
talking
well,
two
it's
different
one
things?
unit.
It's one.
Yeah, because it's like a transom and it has
Okay.
like a whole framing system. That's probably original to the building from 1954. And so that's what I wanted to confirm before moving forward. And again, given the other items that are on the list between the elevator and the masonry repairs that need to be done.
From what I understand, there's only like $70,000 left on the MOU. The ARPA funds stuff. Actually, so less.
Yeah, yeah.
Less.
So, we are actually currently requesting, price quotes for our sink. As you know, we don't have a sink. For our break room.
Well, you know, you will not get an elevator for $30,000. You know that.
No, no, I know. And I understand. I mean, we have a huge county and we have a lot of priorities, and that's why I.
Well,
wanted to
I'll
bring
make
it
sure
up.
that, yeah, no, I'll talk to Tim and I'll see where we are and we'll get that.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody, you know, looking into getting the price quotes and working on getting us these installed, but I just think that that's a higher priority for our staff.
You got it?
I'm not understanding the door. Are we
I
gonna
didn't
fog
have-
the door?
Well, yes, that's what
Yes,
she's,
to install that,
that's what she's talking about.
to install that, we thought perhaps it
The
might
whole,
need to be replaced because of the
Okay.
age. And then Sage Integration confirmed in an email that it did not need to be replaced.
I did
so
not
does
see
the
that.
county save,
You send it to
or
me.
we save some money,
I probably not.
right?
I just got. it last week.
I've not been privy to any of that. They just
Sure.
told me that you had to have more.
Right.
So if it's just a fob, are we saving the cost of the door to replace the whole door?
Well,
I mean,
the way it was initially discussed.
Yeah.
The door had to be replaced and then Sage, we haven't paid for their
Yeah.
building yet, but there is a purchase order for all of the security on every building.
do we have to
including
redo a resolution for the amount? I don't know. I'm
No,
just asking.
that the door has they just
They were
bought
two
the
separate
door.
We,
they were two
we
separate-
were under the impression, we were
Mhm.
mistaken, I was mistaken.
But-
I thought the door had to be replaced. And I'm not an expert in any of this stuff. That's why I ask a lot of questions. So I found out that the door does not need to be replaced.
So we can
So
put
we
that
can
money going.
install the safety features, and.
Just wondering if we could delegate additional dollars.
No, we don't have to. We do not have to.
I know that, but I mean, I don't know if we saved enough to delegate it. Okay, so it's a wash.
It's a wash.
It's a wash.
That was gonna be under ARPA
All right.
replacing that door and it's
Okay.
not being done, so we have 36,000 sitting there on that
Oh,
MOU.
so we still have, okay, good. So that's available.
But it will
All
not
right,
cover
that's-
elevators.
No, it's not recovered.
Well, I mean, I do think it's worthwhile to look at repairing some of the more advanced piece of features.
Internal or external?
But that's a discussion for another day. I mean, all of that was included in.
Oh,
We
no,
can discuss
I
that.
remember.
I just wanted to
Okay.
bring that up because I know that maintenance has a lot on their plate. They don't need another project.
Yeah,
So-
that's actually with IT and getting that, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you. So item,
Saying is it's an easy fix for you.
item 13 is to approve the satisfaction mortgage, as Nick explained last week. These are submitted on a regular basis. We try to track them as well as we can based on the succession of the staffing in our office. We actually went in and tried to research these several years ago to make sure that there were no outstanding ones. But every now and then we come across some that are very old that we also place on the agenda, but this one is a more timely release of mortgage, as you can see. Item 14 is to award the lowest and best contract to ProScape for 3 HSTS replacements. And item 15 is for KJ Excavation LLC for 2 HSTSs. As you know, every year our office applies for Ohio EPA Water Pollution Control Loan Funds, similar to the funding that Gary applies for, although ours is much simpler. We apply for the maximum, which is 150,000. And it is to help people either connect to the sewer. We can use half the money to connect to the sewer or to help people replace their septic. We have a waiting list for both. And we work with our combined health district, the sanitary engineer, as well as our chief building official on this project, and our prosecutor and our auditor. So it does take a lot of different partners to get these projects through. And in this case, we're helping 5 homeowners replace their septic systems.
And they all come in at 100%?
I believe one of the homeowners has to pay a local
Oh,
share.
okay.
And we actually received their check yesterday. So if they don't qualify for 100%, we stipulate that in order for us to award a contract, we have to receive their local share.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Then we'll, Gary, sanitary.
Gary Newbrow, sanitary engineer, commissioners, item 16. We knew this was coming. This is the retirement of Ron Watson, our water superintendent. Tomorrow will be his last day working. He- There's a resolution prepared, Lisa, for tomorrow.
Yes.
He does intend to be at the meeting for presentation of the resolution. We'll get lunch, we'll have a retirement lunch, tomorrow out at our facility. You're all more than welcome to attend. That, and, it's gonna be a real loss for us. We never had an assistant water superintendent before, but in the past year, we did bring one on. His name is Dan Trumbull. He's still the assistant. He's been working with Ron for about a year now. And, hopefully he's going to, be able to transition into the water superintendent.
It's hard to replace a 31 year
Yeah,
veteran.
31 years of knowledge out there, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's, want to know anything about our water system, he's the go-to guy, and we're gonna lose that resource. And, anyway, there may be some challenging times coming. Still being learned. All right, item 17, this is Miss Gabe Blair. We did multiple interviews for an open positioning out there in the billing office, and she was found to be the most qualified. So we're asking you to hire her for this position. Number 18, this is another notice to proceed on another project. This is the Sheridan Drive sewer project. Commissioners, you were all three at the public hearing for this. It has 100% support from not only the residents in the area, but from the Matthews School. Right there, we're running the sewer too. And we already awarded the contract back on August 6th, and now it's time to go ahead and give them notice to proceed.
Matter of fact, I was just at an event last evening after the property tax meeting. And I had a resident there, said, what's going on with Sheridan Drive? I says, well, we talked to the sanitary engineer about it. But what do you think what's the timeline on it? He said they're digging all around it, but nothing on Sheridan. I don't know if I.
Well, they're up there digging on Smith Stewart.
Right, Smith Stewart is what he
The
said.
area, but
And what's the cost on the project?
this one, I don't have that in front of me, Commissioner. But we use ARP funds for the bulk of it, and Matthew Scholes
Yeah.
contributed, it was like 75,
Yeah, we
25.
were out there, I remember, I was just curious if you had the cost of the contract. That should be in there.
We're looking at 668,700 is our current estimate.
That includes connecting all of us.
Yeah, and we're connecting all the houses. All right,
That's okay, Gary.
but they're gonna start sometime in October, and I think it's a 90-day contract.
That's fine. You just said,
And we'll get notices out to each of the residents out there once we pass this, letting them know the notice of receipt has been issued. This is the start date, the end date. We like to keep apprised of our activities.
great. Thank you. Okay, I know we have some discussion concerning in-home service, and we do have Diane here. Been some questions concerning different awards. So what I'd like to do, Diane, yeah, if you would take a seat. Mr. Merkin, if you could fill us in a little bit about what's. Gina, either one. Well,
I don't.
you want to.
I'm Gina with Care Builders at Home, and last week we here talked about two other companies were awarded this $100,000 contract. We had heard about one company not being credentialed well, even licensed. Now, most recent, something disheartening that we've learned is the actual bill rate that awarded, which is a bill rate of almost $10 more an hour. We've been serving our seniors. So my question is why? When first of all, both of us could have done ourselves, but why do we take on another entity and allow them to charge this project an additional $10 an hour? It just makes no sense to me.
Oh.
Or to us.
Diane, you're
I
gonna have
guess
to.
today from the advisory council's opinion is we have wanted to expand the homemaker service area for years, bring in new vendors, more vendors. We got that, we got new vendors. The one vendor, we're going through the process of making sure that all of their ducks are in a row, that they have all the proper credentials and training. And the other vendor, they were awarded, they are getting paid $10 more per hour than the other. That's what they requested, and that is what was awarded. The thought process is to bring in 4 companies because we already get issues of no-shows. Current vendors, people call me up, I'll say there's no shows. It's not constant, but it's the ability to meet the demand. So that was our thought process. It is in transportation as well, to have more than one vendor or 2 vendors. We want to have multiple vendors so that people have the choice to move if they're not satisfied with the service. So this is just the boards, this is a short-term contract. It's only for 11 months. We have our new bid process coming out in March, which will include the full, I believe it's $700,000. This is being, right now it's $50,000 per vendor. In hindsight, maybe we could have negotiated with that new vendor to bring the rate down, but we didn't. With the short term that we had. So we're hoping in the next cycle that we can either put a cap on the amount that is requested per hour or, renegotiate as we can through our bid process.
Well, If I could I'll speak for Dave real quick, if I may.
Okay.
I think it would have behooved us to negotiate because what we have is long-term vendors who feel alienated now. And I can understand because, when you've been doing a service for so long, you get another vendor come in new and then you pay them $10 an hour more. I believe that they should have at least came in comparable to where we're at now, because what we might be doing is throwing a wrench into speaking on behalf of, the services, but maybe the services say, you know what, well, we're just as valuable. Does that mean that they deserve that same kind of a rate? You know what I mean, Diane?
Back up with their cost of operations. And come up with that unit price. That agency, I know they're a they're a larger corporation. The Cornerstone that's, they're based out of Texas. So based on their bid package and their unit price, that's what they came up with their cost of operations. Now, the price that we have from caregivers and comfort keeper is the same this time. Last cycle, we had care builders come in. That was an issue at the time, bringing in a new vendor. We're just trying to expand our vendors.
It's Dave Merkin, Comfort Keepers. In all due respect, I have everything simply sense. Okay, one, the advisory subcommittee is doing a disservice to the county. They didn't do their job. Last week, we were here talking about this one that doesn't qualify, okay? Diane saying, well, we haven't checked it yet. I'll bet anyone here $1,000 that they don't make it. I've checked it. They do not have what's required by the Ohio Revised Code as outlined in the RFP. They're not going to make it. No matter how long they delay saying that, they're not going to make it. Okay, that was somebody in the advisory council's job because they presented to the commissioners. And for 20 years that I've been doing this, you guys rubber stamp. They made the suggestion, we'll take it. And that's probably the way it should be. But they didn't do their job. This company should have never even been presented. Number two, the one that we found out this week. I've been doing this for 20 years. Diane's comment about no shows is ridiculous, okay? There's no shows everywhere, but it doesn't happen often. There's no complaints in 20 years. The three of you as commissioners have worked with me. You can go back 3 boards of commissioners and every one of them will tell you that we do a damn good job, that we've not been a problem, and that we've been good to this program. I've done so much pro bono work for this program. And now they're saying, well, we'll bring in this other agency. That's ridiculous. First of all, they've never been in this before. You should check their licensure too. They'll probably make it, but I'm not 100% sure. Beyond that, I've been doing this for 20 years and we're at $33. That's a fair rate. Now, to bring someone in who's never done this program before and approve them at $10 more an hour, that will involve well over 300 hours just in this small set. 300 hours more if Gina or I had it than what this group is going to do. Are they that good? They haven't done it before. So how do you know? We've done it. You're going to pay more money to them because what? You want more vendors? There's no reason to have more vendors. You might expect me to say that. But the vendors, as we've done it, have never left anyone out of service. The only reason there's a waiting list is because we never had enough money. We didn't say, hey, we don't have enough staff to serve you. I haven't said that in 20 years. And Gina never did that in the year that she's been doing it. The fact that somebody got this idea in their head that they need more vendors needs to be proved. There is no reason to provide more vendors, especially when your new vendor coming in is 30% more than your existing vendors. What the hell are this? What are they doing there?
Diane, is this the board's choice or is this your decision?
This is the board reviewing the bids.
The board's
Making
decision.
recommendation.
They're an advisory board. They advise us, but we make the ultimate decision on this.
No, and I understand it, but I can understand Mr. Merkin's point too, you know, we're bringing in a company. You know, that is charging $10 more an hour. We still don't know, do we know about the licensing of the
That's
other,
the other one. They're.
the ORC?
County. I'm gathering their documents now. I have not had time to
Okay.
review the emails that I have. I have
All the
emails.
Look online.
Yeah, you can look online with the state and see.
They
if
have,
if
they're
rates.
providing me with emails.
Not.
Not.
They don't do this work.
That
The
was
other
my
thing-
job.
okay.
The other thing about that is that company is a maid service, okay? Services. We have RNs on staff. We have care plans. Our people are all state tested. They're there doing homemaker, but primarily doing bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting, mobility and transfer, so on. What's this company?
Company has that as well.
But they're not places to do it.
They have that.
No, they-
I'm,
Look on their website. They don't do any of that, Diane.
their website might be not updated.
No.
I can't go by website. I'm going by the documents that they are sending.
Okay, I'll tell you what, we don't
Please
even
give
need
me
to
the
have this
time.
discussion. Do the check, fine, you're not licensed, and let's move
Please
on.
give me the time to look at the
Time, we did it in
documentation.
3 minutes.
No, I mean, yeah, we would like to get that.
Yeah, but
information.
hopefully we would have known that before you brought that
Absolutely.
contract.
Well, we are at the mercy of the board. You know, so whatever the commissioners are getting, we're making decisions based on,
When they
the board, but-
submit that they are in compliance in their documents, then you assume that they're in compliance. So now I'm going
well,
to,
from now on.
because this was brought to my attention, I'm
Right.
glad. That's my job. I learn from, as we go. So now I will make sure with this new company that they have all the documents. Yeah.
But we still do have the powers of commissioners. We can get rid of Dave Merkin tomorrow if we wanted to and vote no as commissioners. Even though he's been vetted and put up there, we have a choice of what's best for the citizens. And if they can provide the service that they're providing, it's just a money issue. And there's only $256, or how much money is in this? It's a lot less than senior centers.
Well, no, this one is a small amount that we released in advance. We released an extra 200,000, excuse me, I was speaking. We released an extra 200,000 in advance to expand that system. We've never cut from Merkin and Associates. We have now brought in new dollars and we're adding it to the system.
Right, but if they can service more people with that money without bringing new people in, we don't need 7 cooks in the kitchen to make a soup. If we have 2 good cooks that are providing the service, we don't need to expand that much more. Maybe with senior centers, because location wise, more convenient for the seniors. But if their nurses traveling from point A to point B doesn't cost any more, and they have more nurses able to provide the service, we don't need to dilute businesses by a certain number to expand what they have, if they have enough nurses.
Here's the other approach. You have a vendor that has a core group of good employees. They know are reliable. You have another vendor with a core group. If you give them more money, they've got to hire new people and they've got this turnover of new hires.
You have no
It's
idea.
hard to find staffing in
you're
this
grasping,
market, in the
Diane.
whole, am I speaking, please? In this whole state of Ohio, there's difficulty in staffing this area of service. So our thought process was bring in more vendors that have that good core group that they know they can rely on and don't have to hire and have that turnover.
I don't know if I buy that.
Yeah. That's-
If, he runs his company and if you tell him you want to give him more money and he has to put on more staff, that's up to him to make sure that he can provide
First of all,
staff.
First of all, that's not true. She doesn't know what I have 150 employees. That makes, what she wants to say is we have to go out and hire. No, I can give people more time. I can give them overtime. And if I do hire, they're gonna go through a training program that makes them qualified by the state to do the service. Now, one other thing that Diane said that makes no sense. She said, well, it was only for $50,000, so we wanted to bring in an extra agency. So do you think that when next year, when the full amount comes available, and they have this, do you think this agency that got $50,000 at $42.50 an hour is gonna lower their rate? They're not gonna lower their rate, they're gonna continue on, so when they go into the big pot, they're gonna be hitting the big pot for $100,000 to 42.
You know, I'm getting cross signals here too, because when we did the same thing with providing rides, we only went to 4. We didn't do 5 or 6. And the one was the reason we stopped at 4 is the next one was higher. But now we're saying let's add more to this and add someone who's higher in price, $10 an hour more, which we didn't do for the transportation vendors. So why did we draw a line there, but not draw a line on this service with the money that's there? When somebody was,
They wanted 70 an hour versus.
They did.
Or 70 versus 25.
but it was higher, and now we're looking at this for next person being $10, 30% higher than what they are.
Well, it all comes out of the same pot, so. if we
That's
can
right.
Save money, if we can save $10 an hour, that frees up more money like we gave to the senior citizen centers.
They said $300 more of service to seniors.
Right. I mean, I just don't understand why you would look at someone for $10 more an hour if they're providing the service.
Give
Well,
me a chance to
it-
bring in new vendors.
Right.
That was the thought
Yeah,
process.
but bring it in, is it,
So
how's
that when
that,
the next.
how is that
cycle
helping though? By bringing in new vendors.
we have more money available for demand.
Yeah,
We were
what-
giving them a chance to see what they would do with the 50,000 before they would become involved with the
Yeah,
larger.
but you're giving them a chance at a higher price.
Yeah,
I'll take 42.
Let's-
I won't sign my
Probably do
contract,
that
I'll take
anyhow.
42. I'm negotiating now.
Well, this is. I mean, this is human nature to. When you. When we give raises and then we have companies that are providing the service for all these years and they look at that long term. You know, I'm not so sure that. You know, speak about this, but. That they don't raise their.
Well, he's kind of being penalized.
Can we
because he
renegotiate
came
with
in
this
at
company,
$10
Diane?
less.
Diane.
And you're,
I'm asking the prosecutor, that's why I looked at Bill Danza.
Can we
I don't-
renegotiate this contract?
You awarded it. They haven't signed it yet.
Can we explain to them that, listen, this is what's going on? Can we possibly rescind that and then renegotiate it at the current cost of our other providers?
Bill Danzo, prosecutor's office, you could try, but I think, because you've already awarded the contract, you've entered into some really uncertain territory. I'll just say that.
I understand that. I don't know. I just was asking if there might be a possibility. Well, they could say, no, we've already entered the contract. It's a done deal. I understand that.
They could,
Yeah.
you could try, like I said, you could try to reach out to them, have Diane reach out to them and see, you could try.
Could you do that, Diane? And see what, just explain to them the situation, what the commissioners are up against and.
well, we should make sure that we're aware of that. I mean, I wasn't aware it was $10 more, and I don't know if.
I was not.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
worth.
we certainly wouldn't have voted for that.
We would have questioned it if it would have been brought, listen, they want $10 more than everybody else. We would have been, well, why?
That's why bring these contracts in. We need some time to look at them. No more 5-minute contracts. I want to see everything. At least.
Yeah, and then it's kind of tough even then, because then we're not sure where they're at in their hourly, and then we see this hourly, and it's like, well, take it for granted that the board is giving us the advice that we need to have to make those decisions. And we're not gonna micromanage it, you don't wanna have to
Well,
micromanage
maybe
it.
we have to though.
But,
You will know because this is how the journal entry was made. So that was what you approved. So it was presented to you at the meeting.
oh, I see, okay.
Yeah, the room is packed with the whole advisory council panel.
I see.
Yeah, I understand. No, I'm not criticizing it. It's the way
Right.
20 years it's been done that way. I've seen it.
Thank you, Dave. Diane, can you do that and then
Absolutely.
get us some information on the
So
licensing
you're
of
saying
the
that
other?
even though we didn't sign it, we still may be obligated to it?
If they say no.
Yeah, like I said, I think that Bill Danzo, prosecutor's office, I think you're just in a little bit of uncertain territory now. If everybody comes to an agreement, that is what it is. But if not, it's the step of approval does mean something.
Unless they're not qualified.
Maybe,
Right,
They're not licensed.
if you don't fit, if you don't meet the qualifications of this request for proposal, that's a different story.
right. That
Right,
part of
that's
it,
a-
yeah, but the other company, if we're only committed to 11 months. Contingent on the service, maybe they would be willing to renegotiate with the idea that they would, moving forward, get another. Contract for an additional period of time.
Yeah.
You know what I
And then
mean?
that would all
Instead
depend on.
of- Instead of just saying, hey, listen, we did this, you got 11 months and then we're probably just gonna, not renew the contract.
Well, that would all depend on, there's going to be another round of competitive selection at some point.
Oh, so they got,
So there's going to be another request for proposals, and what the commissioners, not this board, I don't believe, I don't even know that Commissioner Malloy was here at the time. The senior levy board chose to ask the commissioners to go with competitive sealed proposals instead of competitive bids. That's what allows for the negotiating before the award. That's what allows for that slightly different process that we use for the senior levy bids. And instead of awarding to the lowest and best bidder, it's the best, I can't remember, there's another statutory, it's essentially the best value or the best fit for the county that it's awarded on. So it's a little bit different, but my understanding is there will be, before this 11 month is up, there will be another.
It starts in March.
Okay, so in March, there'll be another
May.
prior to, yeah. So, again, I think, we can discuss what all that means more in depth as we go along, but, I think that it's, what I wouldn't want to do is say that, oh, after this time, you're out, you're in, it's gonna all depend on another.
well, no, I probably shouldn't say that, but what I think is that maybe they would. Themselves maybe think that, you know what I mean? Not that we would do that, I don't want to put that out there, but.
Sure. Well, the first question is we have to make sure they're qualified.
Right.
That's the first one.
That they have the proper licensing, that they have all the proper tools, to be able to do the service that, that they offer. Okay. We'll
And
work
they
on
may
that.
be that just that, like Diane said, maybe they didn't change their post on the internet. We don't know.
So,
That's the one from Columbiana, yes.
If you're ready to move on. So the annexation for tomorrow, for the public hearing, they've withdrawn the petition.
So you did all that work.
Um, so, there's no public hearing tomorrow. But they're gonna resubmit.
Oh, well, they gotta realize that this costs money and time. We had discussed some of that, but maybe we could discuss it a little further. And find out whether or not that there's any sort of compensation for the time that was spent for that. How many hours do you have on that? Several. Okay. Who else is here? Raymond's here, Chrissy's here, it's her birthday. And Mr. Merkin, Gina, everybody's good now? Commissioners, anybody else have anything before we adjourn?
It's Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Second that.
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez.
Yes.